This isn't just another book podcast. This is the Deep Dive Library, where ideas turn into action. We don't just read books, we break them down to the bone. If you're hungry for insights, obsessed with growth, and ready to apply real lessons from the world's most powerful books, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share, because one idea here could change everything. Hit that bell, and let's dive deep. Today, we're zeroing in on the core insights from The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. We've really dug into his candid account as an entrepreneur, CEO, and now venture capitalist to bring you the most crucial lessons about building and leading.
Yes, quite a story.
Our mission here is to move beyond the typical business talk and, extract the truly actionable knowledge. Those surprising perspectives Horowitz provides on the real, often pretty uncomfortable challenges of running a company.
Absolutely. This isn't about theory.
No, definitely not management fluff. It's about turning those real-world struggles into wisdom you can actually apply. We'll be covering the hard-won lessons he shares, everything from facing down near bankruptcy to the complexities of hiring, firing, all of it.
The really tough stuff.
Okay, let's unpack this then. What, in Horowitz's view, are these fundamental hard things?
Well, what's particularly striking, I think, is Horowitz's focus. It's really on the human realities of business, not just the abstract goals on paper.
Right.
He argues the genuine obstacles aren't setting targets, but grappling with the messy, unpredictable nature of people and situations.
So, like, the aspiration is a high-performing team.
Exactly. But the hard thing, that's navigating the maybe entitlement that can sometimes creep in with those key successful players.
Yeah, I see. It's not just designing the org chart.
No. It's about actually fostering genuine communication, a real collaboration within that structure you designed. He vividly describes those moments, when the initial excitement of a vision just crashes head-on with a very real, very daunting crisis.
And what makes those situations so difficult, I guess, is that there are no standard solutions.
That's it. There's no off-the-shelf manual for leading through a crisis that threatens the company's existence.
Right.
Or for keeping a team motivated when morale just tanks.
Right.
These are dynamic situations. They require really nuanced judgment.
So instead of giving us a step-by-step guide, Horowitz just shares his own journey, the difficult choices, the intense pressures.
Pretty much. He's offering us insights drawn from his experience, almost like clues, maybe, or inspiration rather than some kind of ready-made formula.
Okay.
And it's fascinating, actually, how he draws this parallel between the entrepreneurial struggle and the world of hip-hop.
Really? Hip-hop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sees these shared themes of striving for success against the odds, constant competition, and that feeling of being misunderstood. Elements that really resonate with the hard things in building a business.
That's a really unexpected connection, but insightful. Now, these lessons, they come from a pretty unique background, don't they?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about his path before all the CEO stuff in VC world.
Yeah, looking at his early life gives some valuable context. He talks about growing up in Berkeley. His parents and grandparents were politically active. Red diaper baby, I think is the term he used.
Right.
That undoubtedly shaped his worldview. Maybe instilled a certain resilience, a willingness to challenge norms.
He even tells that story about his first day of nursery school. Apparently it didn't go so well.
No. 3 hours of crying, got sent home early.
Wow. It really highlights how even those early experiences can shape us, and the role support plays in getting through challenges.
Indeed. And sometimes really small moments can be quite formative, take the anecdote about the red wagon.
Okay.
He's facing this dare from his brother's friend, right?
Right.
And he's scared. But his fear didn't paralyze him. His approach, asking to ride instead of demanding it unexpectedly, led to a lasting friendship.
So the takeaway is that courage isn't not being afraid.
Exactly. It's acting despite the fear. That's a powerful lesson. And also about not judging people by appearances.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. Then there's the influence of Coach Mendoza in high school football. His direct, no-nonsense leadership style, turn your shit in, that was the mantra.
Right.
It was an early lesson in a kind of raw but effective form of guidance. It reminds me a bit of Colin Powell's definition of leadership, getting someone to follow you, even if it's just out of curiosity.
And his experience seeing how differently his football teammates and, say, his calculus classmates saw the world, like interpreting Run DMC or the Strategic Defense Initiative.
Yeah, that really underscores the power of perspective. Different groups, same event, totally different takes. This early exposure to diverse interpretations seems crucial. It helped him develop that ability to sort of separate objective reality from subjective perception. which is, a vital skill for any leader in complex situations.
Speaking of complex situations,
Yeah.
the book really dives into the near-death experiences at Loud Cloud. The difficulty raising money initially, then going public right as the dot-com bubble burst. I mean, that sounds incredibly volatile.
Oh, completely. And what stands out during that whole turbulent time is the role of Bill Campbell.
Ah, the coach.
Yes. Horowitz emphasizes Campbell's importance not just as a mentor during the good times, but maybe more crucially, as the steadfast advisor and friend during moments of absolute crisis. That kind of unwavering support system.
Yeah.
Invaluable.
The IPO roadshow sounded particularly brutal. Market collapsing daily, that fund manager asking, why are you even here?
Yeah, stark.
And then, right in the middle of all that financial pressure, his wife Felicia had a serious medical emergency. The personal toll of these hard things really comes through.
It certainly does. You can feel his internal conflict, the immense pressure to keep the company afloat, but also his deep concern for his family.
Right.
And Felicia's strength, urging him to get the IPO done despite her own health crisis. It just shows how intertwined personal and professional challenges can be, especially then.
And even after going public, that $6 IPO price sounds like it felt more like relief than celebration.
Definitely not popping champagne corks.
And then their competitor Exodus goes bankrupt. The sheer scale of failure they just narrowly avoided
Yeah.
must have been terrifying.
It really underscores the critical need for contingency planning, like serious backup plans.
Right.
Horowitz looking at acquiring Data Return as a backup and then realizing that merging two struggling companies would just be double trouble, as he put it.
Yeah.
That actually gave him a clearer view of Loud Cloud's own precarious spot.
That's a powerful insight. Sometimes looking at someone else's mess helps you see your own more clearly. And that's when he adopted the wartime CEO mentality. What does that mean exactly?
Okay, so the shift to a wartime CEO, it's really about a fundamental change in decision-making.
Awesome.
During these existential threats, the CEO has to centralize the key decisions, the ones related to pure survival. Broad delegation on those core issues just becomes too risky. It's more directive, less collaborative, just driven by the sheer urgency.
Makes sense. They did manage to beat revenue targets despite everything, which must have felt like a small win.
A much-needed one, yeah. But then came that devastating news about losing Atrix, their biggest customer.
Oof.
Yeah, and connecting that to the bigger picture, the impact was immediate and severe. Losing Atrix set off this chain reaction, basically jeopardizing their ability to get more funding, left them with a huge financial hole. It really felt like they were doomed.
That's when that secret plan with John O'Farrell became critical, right?
Yeah.
The incredibly difficult decision to think about selling off the core cloud business.
Exactly. And Bill Campbell's guidance during those potential sale talks must have been vital. It was. And bringing in Michael Ovitz, with his experience in high-stakes deals, that brought a valuable outside perspective, emphasizing things like artificial deadlines, competitive bidding, strategic moves to get the best outcome.
So the deal with EDS provided a lifeline, avoided bankruptcy, but it also meant letting a lot of people go. Huge layoffs.
Incredibly tough choices. And Bill Campbell's final advice there, tell the employees immediately and be completely honest, that speaks volumes.
Yeah, it really highlights treating people with dignity, even in the absolute worst moments.
Exactly. That difficult decision and how they handled it sort of set the stage for what came next, rebuilding.
Right, because after the EDS sale, the shareholders weren't happy. Stock price tanked. So Horowitz takes the remaining team offsite to Santa Cruz for this brutally honest meeting. Sounds pivotal.
It was definitely high stakes, but necessary. He just laid it all out, the company's situation, the vision for the new company, Opsware, and basically challenged the team.
And people stayed.
Surprisingly high retention rate, yeah. It really underscores the power of transparency, even when things look incredibly dire.
And then that small victory, getting the stock back above $1, shows what a clear story can do. But the product itself still wasn't quite ready for prime time.
Well, this brings up that interesting paradox, right? Sometimes you have to release a product that isn't perfect.
To learn.
Exactly, to get that crucial market feedback and iterate. It's learning by doing, even if it means initially shipping the wrong products.
You also had to rebuild the executive team, right? Bringing in people with the right software background for Opsware.
Yes, making those tough calls. And then, wouldn't you know it, another major crisis? EDS, now like 90% of their revenue, wasn't happy. Threatened to cancel the contract.
Oh man, deja vu. Another 60 days to live scenario.
Pretty much. But what's insightful here is how he leveraged specific strengths on his team, like Jason Rosenthal and Anthony Wright. recognizing their unique skills to navigate the, frankly, complex and often chaotic environment inside EDS.
So the strategy shifted.
Yeah, to this intense focus on understanding and meeting customer needs, what he calls the battle for the customer.
And that's where Mark Craney's feedback came in. The rose-colored glasses moment.
Exactly. That direct, honest feedback shows how critical internal candor is. You need people who will tell you the truth.
And that simple agenda item, what are we not doing? That seems like a powerful tool.
It really is, forcing a reevaluation of priorities, finding blind spots, and it directly led them back into network automation even after the earlier issues with the Jive.
Which then led to acquiring OpSmart.
Right, highlighting the need for speed in grabbing opportunities, and John O'Farrell's negotiating skills were key there too.
And ultimately, this all leads to the bidding war for OpSware and HP buying them. Horowitz's reaction to selling the company after that whole journey must have been intense.
Oh, incredibly profound. It just shows the deep personal investment founders have. But in the end, he recognized it was the smartest, most strategic move for the company's future.
Wow. Okay, so all those intense experiences, they forged some incredibly valuable lessons on management, on leadership. Let's dig into some of the key principles that came out of all that. First, the struggle. He presents it as, well, inevitable, right? But also where greatness comes from.
Yeah, his key advice on the struggle is basically, don't go it alone. Share the burden. Get multiple brains on the problems, even the ones that feel like they could sink you. His motherfucking chess analogy really captures that complexity of business strategy. There are always hidden moves. And crucially, he stresses perseverance. Just playing long enough increases your odds of getting lucky, maybe.
And not taking setbacks personally.
Right. Don't internalize it as your failure.
Okay. He also really pushes for CEOs to tell it like it is, warns against being too positive, that blowing sunshine thing.
Absolutely, because it can breed complacency, right? Prevent the bad news from surfacing until it's too late.
So why transparency? What are the reasons?
Well, he gives 3 core ones. First, it builds fundamental trust. Second, it harnesses the collective intelligence everyone needs the full picture to help solve problems. And third, it fosters a healthy culture where bad news travels fast, not slow.
And you need to reward the people who bring the bad news.
Exactly. Don't shoot the messenger.
Then there's the incredibly tough topic, the right way to lay people off. His principles seem almost counterintuitive, focusing on the leader's mindset, avoiding blame.
Yeah, it's about getting your own head right first, not blaming individuals, being transparent, respectful, communicating clearly why it's happening in the company's situation, treating those leaving fairly, and then, importantly, focusing on the future with the team that remains.
It's about preserving the culture, even then.
Precisely. Treating people leaving well means those staying can still trust the leadership.
Okay, shifting to hiring. Hiring executives. He warns against consensus hiring and hiring for scale too soon.
Right. Hire for strength in the specific role you need now. Don't hire based on some vague idea of future scale too early, and define the role clearly. No generic position. Also, look for the right kind of ambition for the company, not just themselves. And don't underestimate onboarding. Executive integration is critical.
And on the flip side, firing executives.
Recognize when it's necessary. Act decisively, don't drag it out. Have a thoughtful, respectful process. Communicate clearly to the person and the company. And crucially, don't trash the departing executive publicly.
That chapter on demoting a loyal friend must hit home for a lot of leaders.
Oh, it's painful, but sometimes necessary as the company's needs change. He talks about the confusion approach, thinking about the good of the whole organization and breaking the news with empathy, being sensitive to their potential embarrassment or disappointment.
He also explores why smart people believe stupid things. What's the gist there?
It boils down to a few things. The power of incentives driving behavior, our tendency to seek out info that confirms what we already believe.
Confirmation bias.
Exactly, and the dangers of groupthink, where consensus trumps critical thinking.
And leading indicators. How easy it is to focus on the good signs and explain away the bad ones.
Yeah, we tend to overemphasize positive early signs and rationalize the negative ones. He stresses you have to pay close attention to both for a balanced view.
What about silver bullets versus lead bullets?
That's about recognizing there are rarely easy fixes. Most big achievements come from sustained, difficult, often unglamorous work. Those are the lead bullets. Not from some magical quick solution, the silver bullet.
Nobody cares, just win, baby. Al Davis's line, pretty blunt.
Very blunt, But it underscores the need to focus on results, on solutions, not getting bogged down in excuses or how hard things are.
And Jim Barksdale's maxim, take care of the people, the products, and the profits.
In that order.
Right.
Horowitz argues that prioritizing your people, their well-being, their development isn't just nice to have. It's the foundation for everything else, for great products, and ultimately for profits.
We touched on the right kind of ambition earlier, but it's worth revisiting. Aligning personal goals with the company's success.
Yeah, Mark Craney's quote nails it. 2% of zero is zero. Self-serving managers are incredibly demotivating. He even references Dr. Seuss' Yergel the Turtle.
Huh. Okay. What about one-on-ones?
Critical for communication architecture, but his key point is they should be employee-centric. It's their meeting, their agenda, a dedicated space for their concerns, ideas, development.
And scaling. He says, give ground grudgingly. What does that mean?
It means recognizing that as you grow, communication gets harder, common knowledge shrinks, decision-making gets more complex, you lose some agility. The football analogy works well. Coordinating a bigger team is just inherently more challenging. So you scale processes intentionally, not just for the sake of it.
And the related scale anticipation fallacy.
Right, the danger of judging people based on some theoretical future ability to manage at scale instead of their actual performance now. Managing at scale is a learned skill. You don't just hire for it up front necessarily.
Herb Allen's reason for investing in courage and determination. He admired their grit during the downturn.
Yeah, it wasn't just about the numbers, it was about their resilience.
And maybe the biggest lesson, the most difficult CEO skill, managing your own psychology.
Oh, absolutely. He's brutally honest about feeling unprepared, making mistakes, the sheer psychological weight of the job. It's like the Fight Club of management, he says.
So how do you cope?
He offers practical tips, build a network, find other CEOs to talk to, get your thoughts down on paper, focus on the road ahead, not just the bumps, and crucially, don't quit. He also brings up that, quote, distinguishing fear, the emotion, from courage, the action you take despite the fear.
Then he breaks down leadership attributes in follow the leader, articulating vision.
Right, aligning interests, that's the Bill Campbell attribute, genuinely caring for people, and then the ability to actually achieve the vision competence, the Andy Grove attribute.
He also talks about peacetime versus wartime CEOs, the counterintuitive parts of the job, how to evaluate CEOs, and that fundamental point. First rule of entrepreneurship, there are no rules.
Yeah, adaptability and flexibility are key. Things rarely go according to plan. The bidding war for Offsware is a perfect example. You have to navigate the unexpected. Focus is important, but so is being able to pivot.
And setting the standard for executives, performance over pedigree, and the tough decision, should you sell your company? Looking at both logic and emotion.
Right, considering things like local maxima, and trying to mute the emotion by doing things like paying yourself a market salary, being clear with the team about potential outcomes.
Finally, the end of the beginning. Starting Andreessen Horowitz. What was the motivation there?
It really came from his own difficult experiences, especially that negative interaction with a VC early on. He wanted to create a different kind of firm, one built by founders for founders, focused on providing real operational support and sharing knowledge, not just writing checks, competing on adding value.
So wrapping up this deep dive into the hard thing about hard things, Ben Horowitz gives us this incredibly unvarnished look at the real challenges, right? It feels like a vital resource for anyone in leadership.
Definitely. It's full of invaluable lessons on navigating chaos, making those tough calls, and really understanding the human dynamics that, make or break organizations.
It leads to a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah.
When you're facing your current hard things, are you maybe looking for a playbook that just doesn't exist?
Yeah, and how might adopting a more transparent, maybe more courageous, people-focused approach, like Horowitz talks about, how might that shift your perspective and your actions?
Take a moment to think about which stories or lessons really hit home for you. How could you maybe apply them in your own work? We're all about turning these ideas into action. Let us know your key takeaways or any questions you have. Drop a comment below or reach out.
And if you found this deep dive helpful for understanding the realities of leadership and building something significant, definitely subscribe for more in-depth explorations of influential books. Leave us a comment and please share this with anyone you know who might be wrestling with their own hard things or just needs some practical, hard-won wisdom.